So now, hopefully, if you've gone back to FL Studio, try adding your own instruments in, getting a sense for what that sounds like. These next few minutes, or possibly more, we're going to go about adding melodies into FL Studio to show you, to tell the computer, okay, along with this beat, these are the melodies you want to play. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking, wait, Colin, I don't even know, I don't even know kind of the theory behind making music, or music theory. Like, how exactly are you expecting me to make a melody? I'm not going to expect you right away to understand all of music theory. I will, however, show you some quick little training wheel tips, if that's how you want to think about them, that will allow you to make melodies without necessarily understanding how exactly they work. But I will also list my favorite resources for learning music theory that are also fun as well, because they use a lot of popular songs. So be sure to be checking the resources tab. Tag along if I'm giving you this in physical form. Maybe if you're on an online course like Udemy, be sure to check the resources tab off to the side, as I'll have lists to where you can learn music theory. That way you get a kind of a more cerebral, tangible understanding of what's going on. For now, I'll just show you the training wheel trick you can use in FL in order to go about making melodies that don't sound super dissonant right away. So, the way you go about doing that, you go into the instrument you want to add the melodies in. We want to right-click that. So let's say, okay, I want to go to our bass. Right-click, we go to piano roll. This is our piano roll. This is where we tell the computer, okay, this is where you play the melody at what time. As you can see, we have a pretty zoomed-in view, but if I go up to the top, left-click, drag, I can zoom out, left-click, zoom in. Again, you can go up to the right tab, zoom out to get a bigger picture, or you can zoom in for more minute detail. So we'll keep it right about here for now, so you can get a pretty good sense. So, in order to, I'll quickly show you how to add notes into FL Studio, and then I'll go showing you the quick little trick FL's recently added in their new 12.3 update that allows you to put in melodies that sound good without knowing a whole lot about music theory and everything like that. If you have older versions, they don't, like FL11 for whatever reason, I don't think they don't have this trick. So I'll be linking to a resource off to the side about a little trick you can use using what are called ghost notes. As you can look into that tutorial for more, you can use that trick to kind of get the same results. But for now, so I'm assuming most of you guys have just downloaded FL for the first time within the last couple of weeks, maybe a month. They're all using the version with this little trick. So I'm going to show you how to add notes, remove notes, and then I'll show you that trick. So adding notes in FL Studio. If you noticed, in our drum rack, we had, at given time intervals, we had these little notes that at a given point, you could turn a note on here. You can say, okay, FL, at this point, you play the note here. Don't play that note at these spots. Play the note here. Don't play it at these spots. This piano roll is doing the exact same thing, where if you zoom out, you'll see this whole window looks like it's subdivided into different sections, and then subdivided within those subdivisions, and then you can, just gets crazy. It's all the same thing. So the equivalent of one beat, so one of these beats here would be the equivalent of one of these little sections here. So this little section here will last the same amount of time. You turn the note on for that length, that's like turning a note for this length here. And I'll show you how you can go about adjusting that. For now, in order to add a note, left click to get the note in. You can left click on the end of it to drag, lengthen it, what have you. If you want to remove it, hold down, you right click, remove. So again, just to make sure it's cemented, left click to add, right click to remove. And if you added it, left click, you can drag it to extend it. Now, if you say, okay, I put it in my note, but I don't want it here. I want it down one or two more, but I don't have to delete it and then re-add it again. No worries. Left click it, you can drag it down, drag it up, what have you, and you can position it where you want it. So in this case, we'll position it down at what's called the C note. And we'll lengthen it to about halfway. And luckily for you, FL doesn't forbid you to have just one note. we can go ahead and add a couple more. So we do left click, and let's say, okay, I don't want them all playing one note. I want them, or at least I want my bass to move up one. I can do that, and now if I hit the play button, it'll play the melody in addition to the drum loop. Now if you close out and you go back, as you notice, looks like FL, at least the notes we put in, only goes halfway to the full extent of the loop. So if we go back to the piano roll, we'll go ahead and fill it out all the way to here, as this is the extent to which the drum loop is playing in terms of length, because we have what are called 2 bars that are open here. Again, I'll be listing more resources on the side, but a lot of the terminology like bars, counting, and all that doesn't make quite much sense. List a couple resources that'll get you up to speed really quickly. So let's go ahead and I'll say, okay, I want to do the same pattern, but I don't have to like manually click over again. How exactly do I copy it over? Super easy. If you hold the control button down and you left click, you'll get this little kind of pink orange box that pops up. Drag it over, your notes will turn pink. This is actually, first off, this is actually a great way if you want to delete multiple notes at the same time. You select all of these, you hit the delete button on the top right, removes them, Command Z to undo it. But for these purposes, I want to duplicate all these. So how do I do that? Hold the shift key down, left click on the notes, and now if you drag, mix the duplicates, now you can line them up. So now if we drag the cursor, this little play cursor, which allows us, this tells us, okay, where is the music starting from the given pattern. We can drag it to the beginning to start from the beginning, or the middle to start from the middle, just to preview it really quickly. So we'll drag it to the beginning to hear what it sounds like in total. And basses, usually, they usually play a little bit lower, so we'll go ahead and drop this down, and we'll hit play to hear what that sounds like. Alright, so now it sounds like it's coming along as a track, at least in terms of the bass. So, now we have somewhat of a bass. Even though I had no problem figuring out, okay, what notes sound decent together, what sounds sound melodic, how exactly do you, as the new producer, going out there and changing the world with your music, how exactly do you go about figuring out which notes work well together without actually having to know music theory right away? Super easy in FL Studio. Left click up here. Go up to helpers. Go to your scale highlighting, and you're going to see this is the tab that you'll want to be paying attention to. Now, as you notice, there are a lot of options to choose from, and if you don't have music theory, this is more this is just another reason to encourage you to go learn it, because if you do, you'll start to slowly understand what all these random, weird, fancy Greek root sounding names mean. So for this tutorial, we'll just go ahead and choose C major for now. Keep it simple. This is usually a very easy scale for beginners to work in. And then in future tutorials, or maybe if you want to go in, change it yourself, you can go and mess around with these and kind of start learning about the relationship between different notes and these different scales. For now, we'll go ahead and choose C major. You notice, if you look in the background, you see a bunch of white and black kind of highlighted areas. Those change. If I remove, okay, I'm going to remove this bass line, for instance, to explain this. For C major, all the notes that fall in it that will sound good are all the spots that come in this highlighted white spots. Now, let's say I'll drag in some notes and just play the scale so you get an audible sense that every single spot the note is in that's white sounds good. So we'll go up. So now if I play it, all these notes will sound in key, no problem. However, if let's say, if I move this F note and move it to a black spot or black area that's not highlighted, it's going to sound pretty dissonant. Or maybe I move a couple of them up, around, and it's going to sound even more dissonant. Again, for some scales, as it's going to sound dissonant for a C major scale, but other scales, this is not a hard or fast rule. Some notes there are some exceptions about what notes can jump out of the scale or jump back into the scale. So if it's, I would say for any of these melodies, if it sounds good to you, stick to it. But for you guys who are not quite sure what sounds good, what sounds bad, I would say you go into your helpers, go to your scale highlighting, go C major, or check use another major, or whatever scale you want to work in, and then make sure to only place the notes on the spots that it's highlighted white. That way you know for sure they're almost certainly going to sound good. Because again, there's some more minutia about, okay, certain notes that are directly next to each other, unless they're spaced out in a really weird, or put in with certain notes, will sound good or bad together. But I would say usually, and for the most part, if you stick your notes in the white areas for a given scale, your melody will sound good, harmonic, and be something you can work with. So for this one, let's go back to our original one. So we go boom, 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 duplicate it, play it. So now we have a bass sound. We'll go into our L keys and we'll make harmonizations to it. So we say, okay, we're in C major, so we're only going to play C major chords. So we'll left click, do thirds. In music theory, that's usually how chords are constructed. You usually take the note you're starting on, you go up. In this case, you go up to the second. You'll go up two white highlighted areas. There's more technical knowledge again that you can learn in music theory, but for now, we're just going to call these the relationships between the white highlighted areas. You go up two, you place the next note. For the next one, you go up one, two highlight areas, and now you have a key. Now you have a chord that works well with your bass line here. So if I drag this out and play, it's going to sound harmonic. I'm going to have to turn the bass down really quick because it's really overpowering, which is also a great opportunity to show you how you can do that. So let's say, okay, I have this bass, it's sounding way too loud, keys are sounding way too quiet. How do I change the relationship between the two? Go to your bass knob, go to your channel volume, turn that down. Now if I hit play, the bass is going to be a lot more quiet. And then the knob to the left, in just in case anybody's curious, is just the panning knob, which just changes how it sounds from the left speaker to the right speaker. If you're listening on laptop speakers, probably not going to sound as apparent, but if you're listening to headphones, earbuds, it's going to sound a lot more prevalent about how turning this knob will adjust your track. Alright, so now we've turned our bass down. We'll go ahead and we want maybe a little bit more intricate chord progression to work with. So, go in, we'll select this, select all our notes, we'll drag it, and then let's say, okay, I want to do maybe a different chord here. So as we're in C major, let's start on fourth note here. Let's build a C, or what's called an F major triad here. Just, at least for your terms, just a different one that works within the C major chord. So go here, we'll make a different chord. Now if we hit play, we have a little interesting progression going along. All right, so now we're grooving. Finally, as it sounds like it's coming along without too much of a problem, let's go to our lead and let's create a little lead melody. So again, right click, go to piano roll. And for lead melodies, you usually want to stick, in order for them to usually sound good, you usually want to stick, at least for now, stick to placing those anywhere from C5 up. Because if you go any layer lower, they'll start to sound more like chord or bass notes, unless you want that sound. For this one though, we'll go ahead, stick the notes just anywhere from C5 up, maybe a little bit lower, but not so much lower that it's conflicting with all the other elements. And we'll go ahead and maybe just play off what's called the fifth. So we'll place a note here, turn it down a little bit, sounding a little bit loud, go back in, hit spacebar, and then we'll just start, drawing in melodies until we get something that sounds good. there we go. We got our first melody, and we've got all of our layers working more or less pretty well together. So, if you haven't already, be sure to go back into your FL Studio. Be sure you know, okay, how you open piano roll, how you close it. Alternatively, you can go up here to the tab. For whatever the select piano roll you have, you can open it up. Up at the top, it'll tell you which piano roll you're in. You can left click. You can switch between different piano rolls. So we'll go to keys, to the lead, close out up here. Be sure you know how to access the piano roll. Know how you add deletes by left clicking, or deleting notes by right clicking, or extending, shortening by left clicking and holding. And then be sure you know how to preview it all once it's done. And again, as I've showed you, just a really basic quick overview of the cheat sheet you can use for making melodies. I have more resources along the side you can use to learn more about actual traditional music theory, some fun resources, or maybe some other tricks you can use to help you create melodies. Maybe if you're not seeing these white notes in the background, or maybe using older version of FL Studio. Those are all off to the side. For now, I encourage you to go in FL Studio, try these out for yourselves, and in the next video, I can show you how exactly we go from taking just this loop we've created to making a full-on dance track here in what would be called the playlist video.